Welcome back. This week, Elizabeth has been looking into dog whistling.
Jesus knew that there was a place for everything, and it is not necessarily everyone's place to come to Australia.
Do you hear that? No, it's not the ringing in your ears from that night you fell asleep listening to Megadeth on shuffle. It's dog whistling. Dog whistling is the name given to political messages hidden under an innocuous surface meaning, designed to appeal to a particular group while going unnoticed by others. Just like the fairy tales of old, you can't hear it unless you already believe. Also like the fairy tales of old, it's a product of cruel adults who wish to impress their sadistic beliefs on impressionable minds. Dog whistling allows politicians and pundits to communicate messages for which they could be criticised if they said them outright. Which brings us to asylum seekers. Although an accurate title, it's not quite judgy enough for some. If you consult the Liberal Party thesaurus, you might prefer the term boat people.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
Then there's everyone's favourite, queue jumpers. Everyone hates queues, but they're a part of adult life. And like the reasonable adults we are, if someone tries to jump their place in the queue, we bundle all of our molten hate and place all of that rage onto their idiot face.
You shall not pass!
It's a neat, concrete image. There's a queue, there's a queue jumper. Someone is cheating and someone is losing out. But cheating has nothing to do with asylum seeking. There are no queues in war zones. There's no first come, first served system. The average stay in a refugee camp is 17 years. And if there was a queue, it would take approximately 170 years to reach the front. Thus, the dog whistling. If queue jumping has nothing to do with asylum seeking, then maybe the political messaging has very little to do with humanitarian concerns.
You will not, under any circumstances, be settling in Australia.
Now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees estimates that nearly 1 million refugees need resettlement, but only around 80,000 will receive it. Australia's asylum seeker policies have been internationally condemned and criticised by the UN's leading human rights body in Geneva.
I find it interesting that a couple of weeks ago, when we were in the UN, pretty much every country came out and just condemned Australia's asylum seeker policy. Even North Korea came out and condemned us. Like, you know you're doing something wrong when Kim Jong-un is like, guys, that is too cruel, okay? That is too much now.
Now, Immigration Minister Peter Dutton's response to their criticism was to describe the UN process as a farce. Now, this is from a minister who oversaw Operation Fortitude, so I guess he knows a farce when he sees one.
I think it's like another classic Liberal Party, phrase is to call people on boats illegal maritime arrivals, which is great because it's like 9 syllables and that sounds pretty legit. But also, you could have just called them boats. You know, that's 1 syllable. Think of all the time you'd save. I mean, you could solve the problem with that extra time, I reckon.
And that term. That term's really, it's not only needlessly long, it's misleading because it's not actually illegal to seek asylum in Australia, regardless of your vehicle choice.
I have to say, I think we're unfairly targeting people who arrive on boat when so many people arrive by plane. And perhaps just for 6 months, we'll give it a trial, right? We let the boats in, but we stop the planes. Stop them for a while.
Okay, but what about Bronwyn Bishop? She would be very worried about that.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Now, the sloganeering around this issue extends to misquoting famous figures to drag them into the debate. Like the time we saw before where Tony Abbott said, Jesus knew that there was a place for everything, and it's not necessarily everyone's place to come to Australia.
Jesus did not say that, by the way. But if we're going to be misquoting historical figures, let's keep going. How about, that famous Martin Luther King quote, I have a dream that the boats will stop. I'm pretty sure that was...
Yes,
right?
Oh, that brings a tear to my eye. As well as that classic Muhammad Ali quote, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, stop the boats.